I was 22 when I interned at a military academy. I thought it would be a straightforward summer filled with research. I was studying military training and youth psychology for my thesis. I never expected what I would encounter. At first, everything seemed normal. The campus looked like any other school. The buildings were tall and gray with perfectly cut grass. Cadets marched or chatted in groups. I spent my days going between the library and the mess hall. I took notes and tried to fit in. I didn't think much about those first days. One evening, I was in my small room, surrounded by papers. The quiet felt strange. Suddenly, I heard marching outside near the old barracks. I thought maybe there was a late training exercise, but it was dark. The noise was faint but rhythmic. I hesitated, but decided to check it out. When I stepped outside, a chill ran through me. I looked around but found no cadets, just the quiet of empty buildings. My heart raced. Maybe they were just on the other side of the barracks. I convinced myself it was nothing. But later that night, I felt uneasy as I returned to my desk. Over the following weeks, things got weirder. I constantly heard whispers in empty hallways. I thought I saw cadets moving in shadows, but they were never there when I turned around. The library lights flickered when I was about to read. I asked other interns, but they shrugged it off. They didn't believe me. I questioned if I was imagining things or if the academy had a dark history. One night, I stayed late studying. I glanced out the window. Moonlight cast eerie shadows across the campus. I saw what looked like cadets standing in formation in the courtyard. I blinked, and they vanished. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I remembered the stories from alumni. They talked of strange happenings and voices that called at you, drawing you in. I wondered if those voices were real or just made-up tales. It was hard to shake the feeling of being watched, as if something lingered just out of sight. I decided to head to the mess hall for late-night coffee. The hall was empty, and my footsteps echoed off the walls. Then I heard it, soft talking, like a conversation around the corner. I froze, my heart racing. The voices sounded close, but when I turned the corner, nobody was there. I felt a deep chill settle in my stomach. Then, right behind me, someone whispered, "Why are you still here?" I whipped around, but I was alone. That moment haunted me. I rushed back to my room, locking the door. I thought about leaving the next day. I couldn't shake the hopeless feeling of being trapped. Days passed and I couldn't focus on my research. Even during the day, shadows followed me. I never told anyone what happened that night. Years later, I still shudder thinking about my time there. I can't explain it, and I can't forget it. That place creeped into my mind, spiraling into something I couldn't control. I left, but a part of me stayed behind. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread hanging over me. I had barely slept. Each creak of the building seemed amplified in my mind. I went to the library to distract myself, but I struggled to focus. The words in my thesis blurred together. It felt like the shadows from the night were creeping into my thoughts. As the day wore on, I noticed more strange occurrences. A few cadets shot me nervous glances as they passed by. I thought they might have heard some rumors about me. Was it just my imagination, or was there something in their eyes? I felt as if I was an outsider, looking in on a world I wasn't meant to be part of. That evening, I decided to take a walk around the campus, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. I walked towards the old barracks, drawn by an unseen force. I recalled the evening sounds that had first lured me out. The air was thick with tension as I approached. As I rounded the corner, there was a figure standing in the dim light of the barrack door. I squinted. It looked like a cadet, but he was different somehow. His uniform was faded, almost ghostly, like he had stepped out of another time. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just stood there, staring. Then he turned to me, and I saw his face, pale, eyes sunken, a hollow smile that sent a wave of fear through me. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. His voice was like gravel, rough and cold. "Not yet. They're waiting." I stumbled backward, heart racing. Who was he? What did he mean? I blinked, and he was just gone, as if the shadows had swallowed him whole. I couldn't breathe. Panic surged through me. I fled toward the campus, desperately wanting to put distance between myself and the apparition. I dashed into my room, locking the door behind me. I thought about leaving right then, but where would I go? I needed help, someone to talk to. In a daze, I picked up my phone and tried calling an intern friend, but no signal. The silence outside pressed in on me once again. Then I heard it, soft whispers just beyond my door. "Help us," they pleaded, the voices overlapping. My skin prickled. Were they calling for me? I pressed my ear against the door, trying to decipher the words. The whispers grew louder, swirling in a chaotic echo. It felt like they were part of me, pulling me towards them. Suddenly, there came a heavy knock on my door. Fear gripped me as I backed away, unsure of what was out there. "Let me in," a voice shouted,
but it wasn't familiar. I couldn't respond. I just stood frozen, paralyzed by confusion and fear. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered out, leaving me in complete silence. My heart sank. I realized I wasn't safe anymore. I stood there, shrouded in darkness, my senses heightened. The absence of light pushed me deeper into my own thoughts. I could hear my breath and the distant thud of my heart.
The whispers were gone now, leaving only a heavy stillness in their wake. My hand trembled as I fumbled for my flashlight, the small beam of light flickering to life, revealing the disheveled chaos of my room. I briefly wondered if I should try to leave, but my feet felt glued to the floor. What was out there? The image of the pale cadet filled my mind. His warning echoed, "Not yet. They're waiting." I shuddered at the thought. Waiting for what? For me? Just then, a sharp rattle from my window startled me. I jumped, gripping the flashlight tight. With a shaky hand, I directed the beam toward the sound. A figure stood outside, partially illuminated by the faint glow. "Hey, are you okay?" It was Aaron, a fellow intern. His silhouette flickered with uncertainty. I opened the window, heart still racing. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for you. The power went out everywhere. I heard you shouting." He looked past me, eyes narrowing. "What happened?" I couldn't explain everything. The whispers, the cadet. I just stammered. I don't know. It's just dark and... I paused, trying to collect my thoughts. There was someone out here, a cadet. I think he was trying to warn me. Aaron frowned, crossing his arms. "You're exhausted. It's likely the stress of everything. You should come with me to the main hall. It's lit and there are more people there." I wanted to deny him. I felt something deeper than exhaustion pulling at me, an urge to uncover the truth about what lay hidden in the shadows. But the promise of safety tugged at my fear. "Okay," I finally replied. As I stepped away from the window, a low rumble echoed through the building. The ground shook for a brief moment, and I stumbled, grabbing the window frame to steady myself. What was happening? "Did you feel that?" Aaron asked, his voice tense. "Let's go." We slipped out of my room and made our way down the dark hallway. The only sounds were the echo of our footsteps and the occasional creak of the old building settling. Aaron's face was tight with concern as we hurried toward the sound of noise coming from the main hall. But an overwhelming sense of dread tugged at me. What if the cadet was right? What were they waiting for? As we approached the entrance, a sudden flicker of light ahead caught my eye. Drawing closer, I saw a group of cadets gathered in a restless huddle, their faces drawn tight with fear. They were all staring at something, or someone. I stepped forward, forcing myself to breathe. That's when I saw it, a tattered flag hanging low above the group, its colors faded and worn. But it wasn't the flag that sent a wave of nausea through me. It was the fact that it was emblazoned with the same symbol I had seen on the faded uniform of the cadet, a symbol of some secret I wasn't yet privy to. Questions flooded my mind. Who had the school been hiding? What secrets did the cadets know? Before I could voice any of my thoughts, a loud crash resonated in the distance, shaking the floor beneath us. Everyone jumped, eyes wide. There was a new threat, something sinister lurking just beyond the shadows. I turned to Aaron, my throat dry. "What is going on here?" I whispered, but deep down, I realized I was about to find out. The tension in the main hall thickened as the cadets turned their heads towards the source of the crash. Fear painted their faces, and I could see the color draining from Aaron's cheeks. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm, and I barely noticed as I reached for his arm, hoping to ground myself in the reality of his presence. The murmurs grew into frantic whispers. "What was that? Did you hear it? We should leave." Each question only deepened my dread. But I couldn't just walk away. Not now. I needed answers. The group in front of us began to part, revealing a figure swaying slightly at the center, their back turned to us. The shadows shifted, and I caught a glimpse of a familiar uniform, the same faded fabric worn by the cadet I had seen earlier. "Is that—" Aaron started, but he didn't finish. The figure turned slowly, and I felt my heart drop. It was the cadet, his face pale and haunting, eyes wide and fixed on some unseen horror. Horror flooded my veins as I took a step closer. He looked different now, though. Something about him felt more spectral, as if he were caught between our world and the next. "Help us," he croaked, his voice barely more than a whisper. "They're coming." Behind him, the group of cadets shifted nervously, but no one spoke up. What did he mean by they? The ground shuddered again, and a tremor passed through the walls, as if the building itself were alive. I nodded slowly, struggling to suppress the cold grip of fear tightening around my heart. "Who's coming?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Not here," he said, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting something to burst through. "They can't reach us inside. Yet."
Confusion clawed in my mind. This was madness. Why did he look like he was trapped? And why did he seem to know about whatever threat was brewing outside? Aaron tugged at my arm again. We should go. Whatever's happening, we need to get somewhere safe. But before I could respond, the hall lights flickered, plunging us into darkness once again. Panic erupted among the cadets, and I felt myself grab Aaron's hand tightly. I could hear their voices rising in alarm, scattered pleas mixing with cries of confusion. Then, without warning, the lights returned, but this time, the atmosphere had changed. The corners of the hall were shrouded in shadow, and a low growl resonated through the air, deep and menacing. I think they're here, the cadet whispered, his voice laced with panic. The shadows lengthened, darkening further, and shapes began to materialize just beyond the edges of the light.
Tall and menacing, they moved like wraiths, a force drawn to the chaos and fear of the room. Instinct kicked in, and I turned to run, dragging Aaron behind me. "We have to go, now!" As we burst through the door and back into the hallway, I realized I still hadn't gotten an answer about who they were, but something told me I was about to find out in a way I couldn't have anticipated. The growling intensified, echoing in the corridor. Behind us, I could hear the heavy footsteps pursuing us. Whatever they were coming closer, and we had to escape. Someone was waiting for us, and we were running straight into their trap. The hallway felt like it was closing in around us. Each step I took felt heavier, as if the very air was trying to hold me back. I glanced over my shoulder, just in time to catch a dark figure lunging out of the shadows. My heart raced. Whatever it was, it meant business. "We need to find a place to hide," I shouted to Aaron. He nodded, eyes wide, fear evident in every line of his face. We dashed into a side corridor, desperate to lose whatever was chasing us. The growl echoed behind us, deep and bone-chilling. I pushed through door after door, glancing desperately for somewhere safe. Behind us, the footsteps seemed to multiply, their rhythm a chaotic symphony of terror. "Here," Aaron urged, pointing to a small supply room. I barely hesitated before pulling him in and slamming the door shut. I pressed my back against it, holding my breath as we listened. The noises grew louder, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Whatever was out there, it was searching for us. "Do you think it's gone?" Aaron whispered, his voice a mere tremor. "I don't know," I replied, unsure if I should be the one trying to reassure him or myself. I could hear my heartbeat thumping in my ears, and wished for calm, but my hands shook uncontrollably. The growls turned into snarls, and the door quaked as something slammed against it. I pressed myself harder against the wood, squeezing my eyes shut. What do we do? Then it hit me. The cadet. His frightened words echoed in my mind. No one had reacted when he appeared. Was he just a victim like us? Or did he know something that could help? What if... I barely managed to finish the thought. What if we go back? What if he knows how to stop this? Aaron shook his head. What? We can't just go back out there. You saw him. He was terrified. But we can't stay here either. The door rattled violently, and I jumped at the sound. We need to make a choice. Before Aaron could respond, the hallway went silent, and for a fleeting moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, we had evaded whatever haunted us. But then, the silence shattered with a single, chilling laugh. I glanced at Aaron, my stomach dropping. What was that? I breathed. The door shuttered again, but this time it felt different. It was more like something was testing its strength, sizing us up. What now? Aaron whispered, wide-eyed.
That's when I saw it. In the shadow looming just beyond the door, something glinted, a blade, reflecting a glimmer of light. My breath stuck in my throat as realization hit me. Whatever was out there was no mindless predator. It was sentient, and it was playing with us. I needed to think fast. We have to create a distraction, draw it away from the door. But how? I searched the room, my eyes landing on a metal toolbox tucked in the corner. If I could throw it down the hall, maybe we could slip out unnoticed. Aaron caught my gaze and nodded. We moved silently, adrenaline giving us the strength to ignore the shivers down our spines. It's now or never. I took a deep breath and focused on the toolbox. Just as I was about to make my move, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the door. In that split second, I realized this wasn't just a nightmare. It was becoming our reality. I hurled the toolbox into the empty corridor, and as the clang rang through the air, I turned to Aaron one last time. Ready? We dashed toward the door, hoping that whatever was waiting for us wouldn't be ready for the chaos we were about to unleash. The door of the supply room burst open, and we stumbled out into the hall, adrenaline surging. I glanced back just in time to see the dark figure lurch forward, drawn by the sound of the clattering toolbox. "Run!" I yelled, pulling Aaron by the arm. We darted down the corridor, our footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. I risked a glance over my shoulder, heart pounding. The figure was still there, but it paused, the blade reflecting light in a twisted dance, almost mesmerized by the distraction. "Which way?" Aaron gasped, panting beside me as we reached a T-junction in the hallway. I looked left, then right, weighing my options. The left corridor seemed darker, shadows swallowing it whole. But to the right, light flickered, a sign of life, perhaps. "Right," I shouted without thinking, and we took off in that direction. As we dashed into a well-lit space, the harsh fluorescent lights almost felt like a sanctuary compared to the darkness we'd just fled. It was a common area, filled with neglected couches and old vending machines. The place felt oddly deserted, not even a hint of the chaos that had just gripped us. "Is it safe here?" Aaron asked, his eyes darting around. "I don't know," I replied, scanning our surroundings, "but we need to figure out what to do next." That's when I noticed something strange. On one of the couches lay a pile of uniforms, neatly folded and stacked. I approached them cautiously, curiosity replacing some of my fear. "What's this doing here?" "Maybe it's a sign of someone else being here?" Aaron whispered, glancing over my shoulder. I picked up a uniform. It felt unusually warm, as if it had just been worn. "Do you think it's from the cadet?" I asked, turning it over in my hands. Suddenly, I heard voices echoing from the hallway we had just escaped.
They were low, murmured, but definitely human. My heart sank. "We've got to hide," I whispered urgently. With no time to waste, we dropped the uniform and hurried behind one of the vending machines, feeling so exposed. The voices grew louder, and I could make out snippets of conversation. "Not safe," one voice said, urgent and pleading. "I told you we can't go back there," replied another, sounding exasperated. "What is going on?" I whispered to Aaron, my breath coming out in quick bursts. "I don't know, but we need to find out," he whispered back, eyes wide with anxious determination. The voices paused just on the other side of our hiding spot. My pulse quickened. They were so close. I could almost feel their breath. Then everything stopped. Silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating. In that moment of stillness, I realized we weren't just hiding from a creature anymore. We were standing on the brink of something much larger, something deeply rooted in this place. Whatever was happening here had turned students into shadows and had driven them to abandon their uniforms. Just then, a shadow passed by the vending machine, and I caught a glimpse of a familiar face. "It's the cadet," I hissed. But then he turned, his expression twisted in panic. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted, eyes wild. "They'll find you." Everything spiraled as he ran past us, and I realized we had crossed into a world of fear we hadn't even begun to understand. My heart thudded as I watched the cadet disappear down the hallway. His frantic words echoed in my mind. "They'll find you." Who were they, and why were we in such danger? Aaron shifted next to me, fidgeting nervously. "What do we do now?" he whispered, his voice shaking. I scanned the area again. The voices had faded, but the air felt thick with tension. "We need to get out of here," I replied, my instincts kicking in. "We can't stay hidden forever." Just then, an unsettling noise came from the corridor, a dragging sound that sent chills down my spine. It was hard to tell if it was just the imagination running wild or something more tangible. Either way, we needed to move. "Back to the hallway," Aaron suggested hesitantly. "No, that's where the cadet came from. We should check the other side." I pointed to a door marked storage. It was slightly ajar, the faded paint peeling off in curling strips. As we stepped toward it, I thought I saw a flicker of movement inside. I nudged the door open wider, revealing a cramped room lined with shelves filled with dusty boxes. "Are you sure about this?" Aaron asked, biting his lip as he followed me in. "Better than waiting for whatever is out there," I replied. The sound was getting louder now, deep and rhythmic. It felt like a countdown to something terrible. Inside the storage room, an unsettling quiet settled over us. We stood in the half-light, shadows creeping in from the door. I felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. My fingers brushed against a box, and I pulled it closer. A label read, "Emergency Supplies." "What's in it?" Aaron asked, peeking over my shoulder. I opened the box with shaky hands. Inside, there was a flashlight, some bottled water, and a first aid kit. It was a small relief to see something familiar, but it felt so inadequate. "This isn't enough," I muttered. The rhythmic sound had stopped. I glanced at Aaron, whose face now mirrored my apprehension. "We have to make a decision," I said, gripping the flashlight tightly. "We can't stay hidden forever, but we can't confront whatever is out there unprepared." Just as I finished speaking, I heard footsteps,
loud and heavy, approaching the storage room. "They're coming," I whispered, eyes wide. "We need to—" Aaron started, but the door swung open violently, revealing a tall figure silhouetted against the corridor light. I froze, staring. It wasn't the cadet or the dark figure we had run from. This new presence was too imposing, too unsettling. A voice boomed from the figure. "Get out here, now." I felt Aaron's hand clutch mine tightly. We were caught between worlds now, between the shadows and the small glimmer of safety we had found. Then everything shattered as the figure stepped forward, and I realized we needed to act fast before our fleeting chance disappeared. "Go!" I shouted, pushing Aaron toward the rear exit of the storage room. My heart raced as I followed, the looming darkness swallowing us once more. The rear exit led us into another empty room. It was small and windowless, a subdued light buzzing overhead. I pushed the door closed behind us, hoping it would hold against whatever was lurking out there. My hands trembled as I scanned the room. "Now what?" Aaron whispered. "Keep quiet," I replied, my heart still pounding. The room was lined with old lockers, their doors slightly ajar, a few items spilling out. I stepped cautiously, drawing in shaky breaths. "Do you think they saw us?" Aaron's eyes darted, panic creeping into his voice. "I don't know," I admitted. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being hunted. Just ahead, I spotted a dusty vent cover. "What if we try to get out through there?" Aaron stared at the vent, uncertainty clouding his face. "You think we can fit?" I knelt down, inspecting it. "If we can open it, we might be able to crawl through." But before I could investigate further, a loud bang echoed from the storage room. I turned, my pulse quickening. Someone had found us. "Quick, help me with this," I urged Aaron, and together we pried at the vent cover. It groaned, but yielded after a moment. I glanced over my shoulder as the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder. We had to hurry. I squeezed into the vent, heart racing. The metal felt cold against my skin. Aaron followed closely behind, his breath heavy in the cramped space. We crawled forward, praying it would lead us to safety. Suddenly, the vent shifted, rattling with every movement.
I tried to control my breathing, but fear had already planted itself in my chest. I wondered where exactly we were heading. Ahead, I saw a faint light. "I think there's an exit," I whispered, urging Aaron to keep going. The footsteps outside faded slightly, but the danger still loomed close. Just as we reached the light, a sharp noise echoed from behind. I felt the air shift, and a low growl rumbled through the vent. "What was that?" Aaron gasped, his voice trembling. I wanted to shout for him to hurry, but I was frozen. The growl turned into a snarl, echoing through the cramped metal walls. "Keep moving," I finally urged. "We can't stop now." Pushing through the last stretch, we entered a larger duct. I could see a grating down ahead that led outside, but as we crawled toward it, a shadow passed over us, blocking the light. "Someone is right above us," I whispered, fear surging through me. I held my breath, waiting for the next sound. Then everything went dark as the grating fell shut with a loud clang, sealing us in. Aaron and I exchanged horrified glances, and I realized we hadn't just escaped. We had walked into a trap. "Now what?" he asked, panic glimmering in his eyes. I didn't have an answer, but a new fear twisted inside me. Someone or something was watching us, and they were ready to strike. The darkness around us felt thick and suffocating. My eyes strained to see, but all I could make out were shadows and the outlines of metal. I cursed under my breath. We should have been out by now. "Damn it, Lydia," Aaron muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do now?" "I don't know," I said, my heart racing. I could feel the walls closing in, the air growing warmer and more stifling. "Let's find a way to get this grating off." I groped along the edges of the vent, searching for any gap or lever that might help us escape. Meanwhile, I could hear Aaron shifting anxiously behind me, his breathing loud and quick. "Just keep quiet," I hissed. "We can't attract any attention." As I searched, a sudden noise broke through the silence, something scraping against metal from the dark space we had just crawled through. I froze, my heart pounding in my ears. "What was that?" I whispered, barely able to contain my fear. "Maybe it's just an echo," Aaron suggested, but I could hear the tremor in his voice. "No," I replied. "It's too loud for that. We need to move." I continued feeling along the walls, desperate to find something, anything that could use to our advantage. Then my fingers brushed against something, a latch maybe. I pulled, and a faint light pierced through the cracks, illuminating our confined space. I squinted at the source, and panic spread through me. "Lydia, what are you doing?" Aaron hissed, sensing my hesitation. "I think I found a way out," I replied, my excitement dampened by the lingering fear. I pulled harder, and the latch shifted slightly under my grip. "Help me."
With Aaron's support, we pushed against the grating harder. It groaned but didn't budge. Then came another sound, more pronounced this time, a soft padding that grew closer. I felt my stomach drop. "Someone's coming," I whispered urgently. "We need to hurry." I took a deep breath and pulled one more time. A sudden rush of fresh air filled my lungs as the grating creaked and fell away. I leaned back, eyes wide as I gestured for Aaron to follow. "Get ready to move," I ordered. The moment I spots Aaron crawling out, I realized what I was facing. The last thing I wanted was to get caught right at the finish line. Just as we attempted to slip through, I heard a voice call out from the darkness of the vent behind us. "They're in here!" My breath hitched. Someone was hunting us, and they were getting closer. I scrambled out, not waiting to see what would emerge in the darkness. When I reached the end, the light flooded in, and I flung myself into a narrow hallway, heart racing. Had we escaped? I looked back at Aaron, but his eyes were wide with fear. "Lydia, look!" he pointed. There, in the shadows behind us, stood a figure. I couldn't see their face, but I felt their gaze pierce through me, hungry and knowing. "Run!" I gasped, and Aaron and I took off down the hallway, desperation fueling our flight. But as we dashed away, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was behind us was just a precursor to an even bigger danger waiting in the corners of the school. I had to find out what it was, or risk becoming just another ghost story students would whisper about for years to come. My heart thundered as I sprinted through the narrow hallway, Aaron close behind. I could sense whatever was trailing us was relentless, like a predator playing with its prey. The screams of urgency from the shadows reverberated in my mind. "Help us, you shouldn't be here," and a new panic settled deep within me. Could we really escape what was chasing us? We burst into another common area, bright lights flickering above us, and I spotted a door labeled emergency exit. I hesitated for a moment, but I knew we had no other choice. "This way," I shouted, racing toward the door, and Aaron echoed my urgency as we threw it open together. Outside, the cool night air hit my face like a slap, refreshing yet surreal. I slammed the door shut behind us, but we both knew it wouldn't hold for long. Breaths came in sharp bursts as I looked around, trying to take in our surroundings. We were in a deserted courtyard, moonlight illuminating the cracked pavement and overgrown weeds. It felt hauntingly quiet, yet the atmosphere hummed with dread. "Where do we go now?" Aaron gasped, his eyes wide with fear. "Let's head to the main gate. We'll find someone, a guard or another intern, and get out of here." I had no idea how far we were from safety, but the thought of running towards something familiar felt like the right choice.
We dashed across the courtyard, our feet pounding against the cracked ground, but uncertainty nagged at me. The whispers had grown louder in my mind, echoing the cadets' pleas. They were waiting. The weight of the unknown loomed large, and somewhere, in the shadows, I felt we were being watched. As we reached the wrought iron gate, I paused, scanning around us. I expected to see the figures chasing us materialize at any moment. But then there was nothing, just the echo of our breathing and the distant sound of crickets. "Please be locked," Aaron muttered, trying the gate. To our relief, it swung open with a creak, and we stepped out into the cool night air. We were free, but I hesitated just outside the gate. "What if they follow us?" I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. "They can't come this far, right? This is where the property ends. We just need to get far enough away." His tone was confident, but I could see the fear in his eyes. We walked briskly down the gravel path leading away from the academy, each step measured as if we were escaping a nightmare. But suddenly, I found myself seized by a chilling curiosity. What if it was all connected? Those voices, the cadets, what were they waiting for? "They were just scared, Lydia. They wanted help," Aaron replied, searching my face for assurance. I nodded, but deep down, questions tightened within me. What had happened to the cadets? Where had they gone once shadows enveloped them? Were they trapped in that cursed place? I shook my head. No time for that now. We needed to distance ourselves. We followed the pathway until it led us to a nearby road. Traffic hummed past, reassuring in its normalcy. But as I turned back to look at the academy, the distant silhouette of the buildings leaned unnaturally against the moonlit sky. For a fleeting second, I believed I saw a figure standing amongst the shadows. A cadet? Or perhaps another watcher? "Lydia?" Aaron's voice broke into my thoughts. He had stopped and was looking back toward the school with me. "What are you thinking?" I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the sensation. "Nothing. Just let's go." As we climbed into the nearest taxi, my heart began to settle, comforted by the mundane sound of the engine. The taxi driver eyed us in the rearview mirror, concern etched on his face. "Long night, huh?" "Something like that," I replied, finally allowing myself to breathe as we sped away from the haunting memories of the academy. Yet, even as the city lights flickered outside the window, I knew this experience would linger. I may have escaped the physical location,
but the unsettling possibility of something lurking behind the veil would haunt me. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to resume a semblance of normality. But the images of that place, the shadows and the whispers, the cadets lost in time, never truly left me. I still think about it sometimes, recalling the hollow smiles and the grave warnings. Was it all in my head?
Or was there something truly sinister hidden in the depths of that military academy? Even now, I don't have the answers, and maybe I'm not supposed to. The past is often an echo of its own, and some mysteries demand to remain unsolved. I moved to a different city after that, chasing new dreams and burying the shadows, the nightmares, in the rearview mirror. Yet a part of me still wonders about the academy, if the cadets still wander its hallways, whispering pleas into the darkness, waiting for someone brave enough to bring them back.